Oh, we're live. All right, cool. Let's see how this is working. Why is it not saying I'm streaming on a studio? Whatever. Cool. All right, now the question is how do I link it? How do I link it? This is a first time problem, you know? We'll get it figured out here one time and then we can move on with our lives, hopefully. Hmm. All right. Cool. Okay, welcome. Let's see. If I change my stream bitrate, I don't know how to do that. Hopefully, it's good enough. I have no idea how to change that. Hey, Rohan, what's going on, my man? All right, we're gonna get into it. I'm setting up for the first time, so like it's a disaster, is what it is right now. But that's okay. we're gonna do our best. Let me make sure I close some of this incriminating stuff that I've got on the screen right now, and make sure that my buttons work. We got the cam. There we go. We've got the earnings coming up, and we're gonna be switching back and forth to various things. Well, this is weird. Why does it say I'm looking at Reddit and the price is 888? I don't believe that is correct. There we go. I no idea what was going on there. A little Google bug. So, cool. I like looking at earnings going into the week, especially on the weekend. I feel like it's the most fun time to talk about this type of stuff. I already wanted my logo. What's my Fallout logo? You know, my friend was telling me like, hey, you might want to change that because that Bethesda's gonna sue you. I'm like, I'm not sure Bethesda's gonna sue the guy with 69 nice subscribers, which it just seems unlikely if we're being honest here. So, but good. I'm glad you enjoy it. I like it too. It was a very very fun game, and I still play it from time to time. Actually, I would show it on my desktop. I've got the original Fallout 2 shortcut ready to go. I just beat the first one not too long ago, so it is a fun time. I played that back in 1997. Well, not the second one, the first one. So, all right, it is Saturday morning, and we're going to be looking at earnings. This is off of the Wall Street Bets earnings whisper that they post every week. So feel free to follow along. We're going to look up a couple of things as we go through this. Actually, one thing I wanted to look at real quick before we jump into this is subreddit AI Analyzer. I was thinking, I wonder if, oh, interesting. I was wondering if there are any AI tools that look into subreddit analysis. And, okay, you got to pay for it. So I'm not going to do it. But there apparently does exist tools already for AI where you could look at, say, like Wall Street Bets and try to get sentiment using AI to go through all of it versus trying to read through comments yourself. And that's scary to think about. I have a conspiracy theory on this, but we'll save that for a future video. Okay. Thank you for that. Let me see if maybe there's some things I can change here real quick on the settings. Output, general output. All right, video bit rate. They said they want 6,800, right? So can I just change this? What does that do? Things are blinking. Maybe that's a good sign. I'm not entirely sure. And okay. All right, let me know what that is. My YouTube screen is blinking on and off on me. Let's see. If I open the studio, what's it say? Again, sorry, first time stream. We got to figure out a couple things here. Yeah, actually, there's a widget to open where I can change the bit rate. I don't remember doing this on Twitch at all years ago. They've changed things a little bit here. So, good now? Okay, well, we'll go with that, and hopefully it stands up. Do me a favor, though. I appreciate that heads up. You're my my beta tester here as we figure out if this is working. No problem if you can't stay, but if you do, yeah, let me know. Let me know if it's cutting out in the future. I have good internet, so it should be good. But yeah, like I said, first time learning session. We'll get through this. Cool. All right. Yeah. So back to what I was talking about. So yeah, I got a conspiracy theory on. I think there exists already tools out there with finance groups that are gathering sentiment, still cutting out. Okay, we'll keep going with it. We'll see if it changes, and if not, actually, you know what? Let me. I'm going to stop the stream and then restart it real quick just to see if that affects the. It's probably going to change like the link and everything to it, isn't it? Can I? There must be a restart stream button. Huh. It says I've got. I wonder if there's we're gonna change the encoder preset as well, and just see if that helps at all. We'll go to maybe slightly lower quality. But all right, cool. So, oh, nice, dude. It's way early for you. You're up at what, 7 o'clock? Look at you. Look at you getting after it in the morning. Hopefully you've got your coffee already. I've been up for 5 hours. I'm on the East Coast. Well, I'm actually not on the East Coast. I'm in Indiana, which I guess you'll see on the hat if it shows. I don't know if it shows up in the webcam or not. Originally from New York, though, so still in East Coast time zone. Cool. All right, so I use this to zoom in a little bit. What do we got coming up? So before open on Monday, I think the only thing that really stands out to me is actually none of these on Monday morning before Monday stand out. I don't care about really any of those. The big one is going to be afternoon ASTS. That's huge. I think there's a lot of people who are going to be interested in that. And then we've got another. I think that's a quantum company. QSI. I'll have to look into it. Hey, Jeff, thanks, man. Appreciate that. That's, yeah, maybe it's all Rohan's internet, right? Maybe we're fine this whole time. I'm just kidding, man. So what I like to do though is I like to do some low level DD here, and we're gonna remember to switch between screens as we do this. But we're gonna look up ASTS and just see what things have been doing for the last not too long. Actually, you know what? Let's also open up TradingView. I like to use. I don't know if you guys use TradingView. I feel like I should do this on the other window though. Yeah, I'll add a screen for this later, just so the charts look a little bit better, and I could get my ugly mug off of it. I don't have that set up right this moment, so we'll do a combination. But when I look at anything for just basic high level, I can't even call it due diligence, just like getting the feeling going. If we look at like the short term trend, we got 1 month here, and you can see we're trading in this range of 26 to 32 ish, right? Bouncing in between there. That's a pretty decent range if you think about it. Like that's 20% swings. And ASTS is definitely a pretty volatile stock, especially when you look at like the shorter time frames of the 5-day going from 26 to 30. Again, that's a big swing. And we're not even at earnings. This is just random everyday type change. So the 1 month looks a little bit more stable, put that in big old air quotes there. The 6 month is kind of interesting. We're still in a clear channel. It's very flat. I mean, there was a slightly downtrend here. And I actually remember thinking in this area, I'm like, I wonder if I should buy in here purely as a swing play. Because I just know it's and people get upset when I call it meme, but it acts very volatile as if it were a meme stock. It can be a very serious stock. Don't get me wrong when I talk about meme stocks. I don't necessarily mean they're not real companies, but really when you go from 17 to 32, that's 100% increase. That's pretty ridiculous, right? I kind of wish I did that. I totally would have sold it somewhere up here. I probably would have sold it right here at 27, to be honest. But overall, like we're clearly in this channel from like 21 to 30. That's a huge range, and we're right in the middle of it right now at 27. So then when I look at the 1 year, right, it's like 1 year it all falls apart because we were a $2 stock and now we're 15x that or 14x that. So you can't go all the way back. You have to start looking at where did the structure really change, and obviously it was Q3 of last year. And then we start looking at like what are some of the potential catalysts that people are talking about, what's in the news right now. And this is not, honestly, Google Finance News is not the best news. So you try to look at a mix of things, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like here in a second. But I like to look at, is there anything in the last few days? And unfortunately, like Google Fi, they totally pull all these garbage AI analyst upgrade, downgrade type news, but not just analyst upgrades and downgrades. They also have like these market tips constantly of why did the stock go up? Why did the stock go down? And usually it's like a day late and the stock has already done the opposite of whatever it is they're trying to sell. So you can't use that too effectively, but you can use it to start just trying to gather some sentiment of, okay, what are the big themes that we're talking about? All right, this isn't particularly helpful. This is just headline scanning to start with. And then usually what I'll do is I'll click on a couple of these as they look interesting. So possible dilution. Okay, that's probably speculation. We certainly could click on it. They're probably going to try to make them pay for the ad that I'm not going to pay for. But okay, in this case, it's already decided to dilute its investors, it looks like. And in the management announced to float $400 million worth of convertible senior notes. This is a little bit of old news, by the way. I know this happened a little while ago, but it can give you a feel for how people are thinking about it. And so I'll take a glance at this. The other thing I'll do is, hopefully this doesn't give away my my account information. No, it doesn't. Awesome. We're going to look at ASTS. Here real quick and see what's going on in the subreddit, because this is where people are going to be freaking out or not. Am I looking at long-term invest? It's a mix, man. So like, if we were to go back to just what's coming up in earnings, and maybe we should start here anyway. As I look at what is coming up this week, we've got. I think there are some long-term plays. ASTS isn't one for me. It is for a lot of people. So I just like to get a feel for what it might do, and if it's at like a low point. Right now it's at kind of a midpoint. I might look at it and say, maybe we'll make a little swing play here. And I'll use after hour as well, where people are talking about it. You'll see guys like Squeeze Kid, right, has put out things on a couple of different stocks. I haven't jumped on all of them, but I did jump on Amplitude. He put out and made a quick $1,000 on a $5,000 position. So it depends. Like in that case, obviously that's pretty short term. If I have been looking into the stock for a while, then it's much more likely that it'll be a long-term consideration. Last week had a lot of those. We had Archer, we had Lucid, we had Rivian, and those are long position. All three of those actually. Two of those are current long positions. Archer is one that I'm generally long on, but I swing trade it because of its volatility. So here, when we're looking at what's coming up, Target is actually of interest to me. We'll look at Target in a moment here, but Target is at like a value play level at 120-ish. And you'll see when we get to that one. AutoZone is interesting because I just keep hearing about how it's eating crap and in the toilet. So, that could be a short play, a very short style play as well. Then we've got On. Is it Onion? I don't know. It's the shoe brand. I don't know what you call it. I guess it's On. But down at the bottom there on Before the Bell on Tuesday, they've had a lot of very positive press. So I have some general interest in looking at that, and maybe that becomes a long play. But I can't guarantee that, of course. CrowdStrike's definitely an interesting one. I won't be long on there, but they're in a grouping of other stocks that I'll find some interest in. Then we got Abercrombie, who definitely not a long play for me, but they've had huge upside surprises in the past that could be a play in general. After that, we've got, what do we got? LendingTree is interesting. I wouldn't go long on it. MongoDB is another one that's very swingy after earnings. Last earnings, I think they dropped dramatically, but then they made it all back up, so who knows. You got Rigetti, which is another quantum that I'm kind of interested in. It definitely has, it'll have impact to a holding of mine, Qubit. So I'll take a look at Rigetti and go, it's either going to affect Qubit more positive or negative. And honestly, I think negative with just generally what's happening with quantum since the big Jensen statement. Marvel is kind of interesting. JD.com, I guess. Cracker Barrel's fun. I hate Cracker Barrel now. I used to love Cracker Barrel. But man, they've lost their quality. They've lost a customer in me. I haven't been going there in 5, maybe 10 years. Kroger, BJ's for sure, both kind of interest. I don't think I'd go long on either. But Costco I would consider long. AVGO I would consider long. And then we've got Big Bear AI is kind of an interesting one. It could be a value play that it is way down right now. HP is kind of a just market player that it's good to stay on top of. And then I think that's it. Those are the big ones. So from a long-term standpoint, we've got Target, we've got, let's see, Costco, I guess I got to go all the way over there, Broadcom, and maybe Big Bear. Big Bear is one where there's a lot of conviction in after hour in particular, where people are talking about it, and they group it with Palantir, or I don't even know how you pronounce that company's name. I'm not sure I've ever heard it. Palantir. Costco, dude. I don't know. Costco's kind of like Walmart, right? Where they just go up. We'll look. Let's. We could just jump right over there. Let's look at Costco real quick. We'll skip ASTS for a little bit and see what Costco's got to tell us. Let's change to that screen. Wow, look at Costco, man. Let's check out the 1 year. Yeah, so Costco, like I said, Costco generally goes up. I mean, you could just draw a trend line here of, is there ever a good entry point? I mean, here we went, this is COVID, right? We went from a high of 600 down to 400. That would have been a great entry point. But beyond that, there's not huge drops. I guess this was a fairly sizable drop. And the question is, are we on another one of these humps over here? Certainly, you could do a little TA. There are probably better people to follow for TA than myself when they get pretty hardcore into it. The short-term trend, it looks like it's just trading in a range. Same with the 1 month. So if you're long, honestly, it's fine. It's an expensive stock, so if you're looking to wheel it, good luck. You're gonna have to have 100K in it at least to wheel even a single contract. And I'm not sure. I'd have to look up what the premiums are like for Costco. It's not super swingy, right? I mean, percentage wise, it's we're talking a couple percent up and down over the course of the month, which is what I'm always looking for. I'm always looking for the swinginess. Let's take a look at it with Walmart real quick and just show they move together. I mean, it's consumer goods, right? So they're both going to reflect each other a little bit. And arguably, Walmart was a better entry post that most recent drop here. They just got hit a lot harder. I think that, well, specifically they had earnings last week, and so they took a bigger hit to their stock with the guidance, right? So that was actually a great entry, and I debated that, but I didn't jump in quite yet. Dorvish, what's going on, man? Big Bear, yeah, it's I honestly I need to look into them a little bit more. Let's go to Big Bear. Why not? We can jump around here. We got all day. Big Bear, they're actually up a little bit here, but I mean this 516. I think their high was what, like 12 or even more than that. If we look at the 1 month, 10. Okay, yeah, they almost hit 10. Their intraday was probably higher than that, but it was 1036. So, but if you look at the 1 year again, it comes from nothing, right? So they were down in the dollar range. So new CEO, yeah, new CEO is scary. If you look at Lucid, who just reported last week, they had good results, but they said new CEO, we're changing from, what was the guy's name, Strawling or something like that? I can't remember. And their COO is the interim CEO, and the stock was not happy. They were like, well, good results, but why are you changing the CEO all of a sudden? Why is he leaving? And there wasn't any good commentary around that, so the stock just, I mean, we can look at it real quick. The stock just tanked as a result, which gives me a little bit of concern when I hear that. I think this is when they announced their earnings here. If we look at the 5-day, they went from 267 to the 220 range. That hurt. I got 5K shares of them. They were good though. I was selling. They actually have pretty good volatility, and for a cheap stock, you can get some decent premium. So I had 50 contracts on them, but unfortunately, I'm gonna wait a little bit before I sell any more covered calls because we're at a weird spot here. Why is Walmart price so low? Yeah, no, they've split over the years, right? I would say if you look at Walmart, so it's a good question. I don't know. I don't think Google actually lists out. Yahoo Finance does though. So if we were to go to, we'll open up a new screen here. We'll go to Yahoo Finance and look at WMT. And when you look at WMT, I think you can click on, we're going to go to the advanced chart, right? How do I get to the advanced chart when I'm in the smaller screen here? Well, whatever. We'll look at the 5-year and key events. Where's the key events? I wonder if I have to be bigger here. Well, anyway, I think if you open it up on your screen and you were to look at the chart here, you'll see that they have certainly split over the years. They were most definitely, if we go to like max, the all chart's crazy. You know, I don't believe they were actually I don't believe they were minus 35. I don't think they were in this actual range of like cents. I think they've split many times over the years. 'Cause I seem to remember them being in the multiple hundreds at one point. So there's a way to look up when they've split. I guess we could also just Google it, but we'll save that. Let me look over here. Walmart stock splits. is probably like, I probably just look up the history of that. They've done 11. Oh, geez. Okay, here. I'll share the other screen for a second. They've had a ton of splits over the years. Although, actually, almost all their splits were pre-2000. And the last one was a 3-1 in February of last year. I don't remember that one. Well, I don't remember the timing of it, but I do remember them splitting in general. So that answers your question of why the stock price looks lower. The splits definitely drive it. I crossed the 1 million mark last week. Yeah. Definitely, I've still had plenty of good success with it. Although I think right now that the chart shows I'm back below it. I'm not, but for what I can connect, I am. It's all good. You gotta keep in mind, like, what is the broader market doing, and certainly when you just look back at SPY, it's been a rough month, right? So the 1 month for SPY is down. I can't remember the last time we had a 1 month down in SPY. I don't know about you guys, but if you don't, you should be tracking your own personal net worth every month, and for a couple of reasons. One, it's nice to see numbers go up and feels good. Two, it forces you to actually think about it and to make sure that you're consciously making changes to drive that number up long term. But also you can see trends in the market, and I think this whole year, with the exception of maybe August, and even August, I think ended up finishing up. Things just go up, right? Like I think this yeah. See, this is August 1st was still up from like the end of July, so maybe it was flat, but for the most part, we've had a really good run here, and it's weird. It's almost like we generally don't finish down at the end of the month, and sometimes it makes you wonder if there's a little market manipulation in there to make sure the people who are checking their 401ks at the end of the month go like, oh look, things are great, the economy is great. I always wonder if there's some timing there to try to make sure that people are feeling comfortable with where things are headed, and I'm not sure it always works. Do I see SPY recovering? Man, that is a great question. I think it changes daily with the administration we've got right now. Like what I'm real curious about is post the meeting that they just had with the Ukraine. Like, we look flat here, nothing's happening, but I think the lack of a peace agreement with Ukraine is going to have massive effects. And I don't want to get into politics because I don't care what you believe in. Like, we're just here to talk money, and can we make money off of it or not? Hopefully. Oh, you know what I need to do? Sorry, I just realized I got to add something here. I feel like one of you guys are going to sue me if I don't do this, right? So I need to add this real quick. Not financial advice. And move that to the top. Where we're going to put that? We're going to put it over here. You guys aren't suing me from earlier, right? There we go. Oh, perfect. Look at that. That's like professional, right? All right, cool. But back to the topic of politics and finance, I think it's highly likely the uncertainty will continue. And I don't know if you guys have looked into what happened last night, but you can see the video. You can Google the video or YouTube the video. There's a lot of concern about Zelensky basically walking out of the Oval Office saying, like, you guys, I'm not working with you. He's getting berated by the American leadership of our country. And again, have whatever opinion you want on that. I'm not interested in talking about the commentary around that so much as what is the impact going to be to the markets. And all it's really going to do, in my opinion, is more uncertainty. And it's going to start forcing people to ask questions around, like, is there going to be a World War III? Right? Like, that's a scary question. If that's where people go with this, man, I might still go puts. Again, do your own DD, and definitely there are some TA guys like Cantonese Cat and stuff that you could follow. They're going to probably look at the charting and stuff and be like, this is what I think is going to happen. But like straight up uncertainty, it's high, and I'd be worried. So WTF and Sir Jack making great play. Yeah, man, for sure. Oh no, you gotta go with the money. You gotta go with the big money and see what they do. WTF, by the way, like he's got some plays. If you're following his plays, it's interesting because he just holds for a long time. He's holding Rivian, Boeing, ZG, some like clothing company. I don't even know who they are, ZGT or something like that. But I don't know. His plays have mostly hit. Long was here was another one, big portfolio. Those guys went hard on Rivian. I think everybody was a little surprised by the results there, by the way. But otherwise, like they've hit a lot and definitely worth following. Sir Jack is randomly, I think, he's surprised that he's winning with the Nvidia short play. But hey, if it works, it works. So money makes money, it seems. Zegna, yeah. Who is Zegna, by the way? I don't even know. Like I had never heard of them until he had posted about it. I'm like, Zegna? Who is Zegna? And luxury designer of menswear. And they have like a U.S. presence, and maybe they're a U.S. company. The headquarters are in Milan. Okay, I don't know, man. If you do want to go after some luxury brands, you should be looking at Estee Lauder. Dude, this is where some money is pouring in, and they're at like a 52-week low, which is an interesting consideration. That's another chart I like to look at, by the way. If you haven't looked at this, there's like a top 52-week gainers and losers. And if we look at the 52-week losers, is Estee Lauder on there? No, there's some other ones, so like Elf Beauty, who I don't know who they are either, dude. I don't. If you can't tell, I don't wear makeup, but I don't. I know that's surprising to hear from somebody who's live streaming, and I'm so pretty, but but Estee Lauder is kind of an interesting luxury brand of sorts where they're just at a 1-year point of being down 50%. Why are they not on the 52-week loser list? They are so far down. They should definitely be on this list, I would think, unless I'm just missing them right now. Oh, there they are. There you go. They're on the second page. I'm not actually sure how this is ranked. I'd have to change my screen size here to get a better feel for that. But yeah, there's some interest in companies like that if you like those types of plays. But we're gonna go back to what we were talking about, which is earnings. We've gone off on a couple of tangents. They're big in Asia. Yeah, that's what I think WTF was talking about. I'm like, how do you even know that? I guess. He's probably got the type of money where he's net jetting to Asia on the regular. Big in Europe as well. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. So Milan, I've been to Milan. Milan is the fashion capital of the world, right? So that's not too surprising. But I don't like investing in companies that I don't know anything about, unless I'm interested in just like a small gamble, like I did with Ample. Otherwise, I would dig in here. What I do know is there are some big money plays happening here. Michael Burry actually just bought a whole bunch of Estee Lauder, I think. Michael Burry stock picks. It's probably, yeah, look at this. I'll go back to this page. Estee Lauder is on the list here. So when I see big money making plays here, I do think about why. And what's interesting is there's a lot of people making bets in China right now. We also know that the GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen just dropped $1 billion into Alibaba, or increased his stake to $1 billion. A lot of people are messing with Baidu. I'm probably butchering these names. JD.com. Oh, this one has actually got earnings this week, so that'll be interesting. We've got Estee Lauder, and then a bunch of companies I don't know anything about. So we're not going to talk about that too much. But it's interesting to consider, why are these really big dollar names messing with some of these companies? What do they see? Now, you still need to do your own due diligence here, but it can give you a starting point for places to look. So that's kind of cool. Actually, let's go back to what we were doing, and we looked at ASTS. Honestly, we'll not dig into that too much more than what we already did. ThreadUp is another one where I've heard the name, but I don't know too much about them. I do want to look up QSI, Quantum SI, and just see if there's any big information I can see on this. They bring groundbreaking power of single molecule proteomics. That's a made up word, isn't it? This is shorts all the way. With Platinum Pro, the next gen protein sequencer. So would that just be proteomics? To every lab, everywhere. And that's a lot of big fancy words that makes it very difficult. And this sounds like a cop-out, but it honestly makes it difficult to do any real analysis on a company like that. Really, if you're interested in this type of thing, what I would recommend is you go to the investor press releases type stuff and start reading through this to see if it's a company that you would want to buy into. I don't really know much about the stock. What I can tell you though is they haven't made any money ever, which is always like, is that really something I want to get involved in? There's too many companies that have never made any money ever. And honestly, they're a penny stock, a 250 million market cap. So I was wondering if they were quantum related. It doesn't seem like they really are. It's just in the title. So we're going to stop looking at them, actually, and go back to something of more interest, which would be Target. Target is one that I am actually interested in here, as we were talking about. And the reason why is because we hit a 1-year low right here, I believe. We're pretty close to. Maybe it was down to 118. What was it at? So we dropped to 121 in the end of November. And that was post earnings. That was actually post their last earnings. And look at the year range. So we are at the bottom of the 1-year range. And the reason I'm interested in them is actually not for the long, but more for the short term, like next quarter. They seem to recover well after big drops. And here was another one where they went from 150 to 130, and then within 2 weeks, 160. I mean, what is that? A 30 change on 130? We got to break out the calculator here, right? So that's a 20% increase. Ooh. And over here, we took a drop from 156 to 120, and then they topped out at 140. Again, that's 15% or so there. So I'm kind of interested in maybe playing around here pre-earnings. But the fact is, if they have another drop like this is the thing. Like you gotta decide, are you bullish or not? And all consumer sentiment has been negative from these big companies here. So I do look at those. Chinese stocks are going higher in spite of tariffs. Yeah, dude, I think so. I think they are actually. I think if you look at the general sentiment and like commentary around places like Reddit or anything that's talking about what's happening between the countries, but don't forget, not financial advice. It very much seems like they've got a good strategy of like let America tear itself apart, and then they're retaliating with their own tariffs. So if anything, they seem neutral to slightly bullish. Somebody I actually recommend listening to there is the guy Warren Buffett. Not the real Warren Buffett. He's getting too old. He's not talking so much these days. The Warren Buffett on After Hour is very big into Chinese stocks. Baidu and Baba are his big ones. Some solid alliteration there. I don't know why they all start with B's. But I would check into what his thoughts are on China and Chinese stocks to get just some potential thought process that you can tap into. Full port into Target? No, man, I don't know about that. The problem is like it's right here. This drop is terrifying, and this was last quarter earnings results. And I remember thinking like, Target's gonna have a banger result, right? It's Christmas time. My wife exclusively goes to Target. She's like, I hate Walmart. But when you live in a bubble of whatever your town is, that's not real good due diligence. So I sit out on those type of things where I might get overly influenced by things that just don't matter that much in the grand scheme. Like there was a guy on Wall Street Bets. He went around. He was driving to his local, gosh, what was it? I feel like it was Bed Bath & Beyond. It was something ridiculous. And he would sit there in the parking lot and he counted people walking in for like an hour a day. every day for a month, and he charted, what their results were going to be. He came up with this hypothesis of, over the course of the month, the number of visitors have increased, and he made this ridiculous bet and just lost everything because he forgot or didn't even think about the fact that it was a single data point from a national chain. Like, that doesn't tell you anything. Like, great, your one store is making money. Dude, I was just watching a YouTube video about a guy who makes money on Subway. Well, I have a friend who lost a ton of money owning a Subway. It was a terrible location. Picking one data point is a terrible decision. You got to really look at it more on a macro standpoint, unless it happens to be a single location stock. But then you got other problems. Then you're talking about just other issues of it's a penny stock at that point. Oh, DEI boycott issues. Is Target doing that? Is that a Target thing? I wonder. Let's see. So we had this economic blackout on the 28th. My wife yelled at me because I got coffee that day with some friends. Whoops, my bad. Sorry. I contributed to. I actually went to Denny's. First time in 30 years. The last time I went to a Denny's was in Mexico. It was okay. I don't know. I don't think I'll ever go back. There was nobody else there though. Short Denny's for sure. One data point. All right, let's get back on topic here. So I am interested in Target. I do think we're at an interesting value play, but I still may sit out earnings. And what I'm thinking about doing is if earnings on Target drops again like this, I'll probably buy in, or I'll probably consider buying in. And you need to make sure you make your own decisions as well. But it could be a potential play because they tend to respond well a week or two after. People forget. Like, the market has the shortest memory of all time. Like when you can, it's a goldfish. When you consider like what the market does 5 days after crazy news, like Nvidia, right? Like it's going to drop, and then you can almost be sure it's going to go up after whatever company meltdown news. So okay, let's go back to what we're looking at, earnings. Other things of interest. I do like looking at Best Buy. I don't really care too much these days about it. It used to be a real big stock of interest many years ago. But, you got to go past 5 years to even start caring about it when they were, you got to go to pre-Amazon days of like the 2010 era when they were still things like Black Friday and people would line up outside the store. That was just a wild, different time. But you can see, like, they really were a market-changing business. I remember going to Best Buy in this time period, and I was too broke. I didn't have any money to buy stocks back then. I was getting like a $100 a week paycheck from IKEA. But, man, they would have been a good company to invest in back in the late 90s. And even now, you would have done pretty well if you held on from then till now, which is surprising. And if you go into a Best Buy these days, they're so different from what they were many, many years ago. They're like heavier on appliances than they ever were. And they also have obviously good Geek Squad and all that stuff. I think they did that back here. But they've had some interesting buying opportunities that, man, would have been nice to buy them back in, this 2012 era. Whoa, that was a 10xer. Who would have guessed? Best Buy of all places. People thought that all brick and mortar were going out of business. This is where Amazon really kind of started crushing all retail. But anyway, for what we've got now, they're pretty flat for the last month. And the last year, we've got a couple of channels. This is probably an earnings, a post-earnings jump. And I would guess the same around here. So I got nothing. I'd have to really dig into this. Now, the one thing is with the consumer sentiment being where it's at, and again, guidance, I would assume we're going to see some negativity. However, that should be priced in post Walmart, post Target earnings. It's the same day, I suppose, and other companies that have already done that. But then you have companies like Home Depot, right? Home Depot is actually, they had a baller earnings session. They why did I go to 1 year? Sorry. They had spiked up pretty well, and Lowe's did as well, off that same thing. So these companies kind of, they all play into each other, and one company's earnings can directly impact another. If we look at the 5-day, there it is right there. If we look at the 5-day for Home Depot and add Lowe's, look at this. Like Lowe's didn't have earnings. They had earnings. They actually had earnings, I think, here, where they dropped back down. But it's interesting how they played off of Home Depot earnings, right? So you have to, you want to think about the sectors that these guys are playing in, and you can add Walmart and Amazon. Wow, Amazon's way different actually. Or I clicked Apple apparently. That's why. Or Amazon's way different here too. But if you look at like these are all big box stores that have some component of DIY that people go to them for. So it's not super surprising that they trade in a very similar pattern. So the question is, will another business that hasn't yet reported earnings that trades like this offer any difference? And what it means is most likely if they're very close, then it's just already priced in. Otherwise, it can be its own catalyst if there's been sufficient time from the last earnings reported to whoever's reporting now. But you tend to see a lot of these companies report around the same time, so that's it can be hard to go off of that. Let's go back to what do we got? We got AutoZone. Oh yeah, AutoZone is a wreck. Let's look at AZ. Whoops, typed in the wrong thing. AutoZone. AZO. And wow, look at that stock price. Did I click the right one? I did, right? They really at 3,500. They're like, no options for you. I don't like people trading options on my stock. That's wild. I had no idea actually. Looks like they've never split their price since the beginning of time. Wow. Okay, I was just dunking on AutoZone, but I think I am eating my words. I haven't actually ever looked at their chart in a meaningful way, and they apparently only go up as well. Look at that trend. That's absurd. I will tell you this. I went to AutoZone this past week. Again, single data point, terrible use of DD. But what I'll tell you is, and this should be something that is global or nationally, I went in for wipers for my wife's car, and the guy saw me walk into the wipers section, and he's like, "I'm going to get your wipers for you." I'm like, "Okay, I guess. I don't know what wipers I need." And they used to do it where you would look it up in a book, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just type it in the computer, and here's your wipers." So I get the wipers. He gets me these Rain-X wipers that were like $35, $36 or something like that. And I just take them. I'm like, okay, I guess these are the best wipers. I take them home and they just don't fit at all. And I'm so annoyed. I'm like, this is annoying. This is terrible. Find a YouTube video and the guy's got like an affiliate link to the exact wipers that you can buy on Amazon. And so I bought them and they show up and they snap in 5 seconds, right? So I go back to AutoZone. I'm like, I don't want these. I return the wiper blades. And they're like, okay, they don't really care at all, of course. But what's interesting is I think that means they are probably maybe not incentivized, but trained to upsell or get these things for you, which then gives them a little bit more margin potentially if they are incentivized on them, which I don't know. But it just had me thinking about it, right? So, it might be a strategic company in that they are taking advantage of people's lack of knowledge, which has probably always been true. And because of that, people do, like when it comes to auto issues, people do still go to stores. When I go to the AutoZone, again, this is like 5 data points because I've gone to probably 5 different AutoZones in the last year. They always have a parking lot full of cars. They're not big stores, but inevitably people will be going there because they have an immediate issue. They don't want to go to a mechanic, and the mechanics, like in my area anyway, have dwindled where there's only a few places and it takes weeks to get in for whatever issue you've got, which is not helpful when you've got an immediate problem. I feel like people are going to AutoZone because they'll install wipers for you, they'll install a battery for you, they'll test the battery, they'll plug in and tell you what error code you have. And I don't feel like that's really publicized much. but they do it. So maybe there's an opportunity there. Maybe this is actually like a good long play. I think the bear case for it is anyone who buys a new car is going back to the dealer, and the dealers are scamming you for whatever. But anyone who has used cars, and if the economy is uncertain, maybe there's a larger market for used cars right now where people are just going to go to AutoZone and try to do it themselves. It could be an interesting play. Now, of course, you need a minimum of $3,500 to invest in them. But I might pay attention to them, I guess, over the long term here. Quarterly, what are we seeing? We're seeing, I mean, they make money. Net income, almost $1 billion in August. Wow. Okay. Annually is what I care about more typically. Sometimes there's seasonal things, there's random one-time events. So it's good to look at quarterly, but I think it's always important to look at the annual trend. And most guidance is for an upcoming year, especially with where we're at right now, because they're going to be talking about 2024 at this point, obviously, which is interesting because this must be estimates. This hasn't happened yet. But anyway, like that revenue is solid, dude. That trend is following what we were just looking at on the screen there, and net income also goes up. So they're leveraging well. Their year-over-year change for everything but net project margin is pretty nice. I mean, almost 10% EBITDA is not bad. That's no slouch. Wow, I was going to make fun of AutoZone, and here I am going like, maybe I'm going to buy some AutoZone. I need to look into them a little bit more off stream, and maybe I'll post something on After Hour about what I'm thinking there. So an interesting one for sure. Definitely going to keep them in view for this earnings week. I'm curious. All right, next up we got on. I still want to call them Onion. Is that wrong? Again, they've had a lot of positive sentiment, but the chart doesn't reflect it right now. And I'm not sure what's driving that. Looks like we can look at some stuff here. Recent shares sold by Sigma. Who cares? I mean, that stuff, I don't really care about that stuff. Let's look at the annuals here. They went from not making money for the COVID years to making some money. I know they've been the sponsor of certain large events in recent memory. That's a wild change year over year. 100% EBITDA growth. Wow. So, yeah, not a whole lot of news here. This could be a good one to look up on Reddit to see what the general sentiment is. And you know what we can do, actually? We can look at the comments here. I do like looking at the Reddit comments as well for what people are thinking. Man, I got to fix the screen. Wow, let's see what people are doing. What is this? Can I like... There we go. I'm going to have to switch it back and forth. What is this? I don't know. They deleted that comment chain. We'll see if there's anything on. Calls on. See everyone wearing these. This is the DD that you came here for, right? So the reason I look at this is sentiment. Again, just gathering sentiment. And it's not like this comment that I look for. I look for how many times people are talking about it. And there's only two. And this is kind of it's early in the week, so there's not necessarily much, but this doesn't tell me anything. It probably doesn't tell you anything either. All right, let me fix the screen now that I moved around. So I don't know. We'll see what Ion happens. Really, I'm more interested in long term how they react to this session. I don't have a whole lot of good commentary on them for today. And then we got CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike will be another interesting one of they can impact their sector pretty harshly to the positive or negative, depending on what their earnings results are. Their trend is quite good. They were hit by the same AI bubble pop that, everybody else was this past month. I mean, you could probably overlay a whole bunch of these companies here and have that same exact trend. Actually, I'll do this after. When we get to Big Bear. So I don't know. CrowdStrike looks pretty stable here. They've had a good trend over the last 6 months. last year. I can't remember if this was. I think this was when the CrowdStrike crashed the Windows update for airlines and just decimated their stock for a week. And I remember this just dropping and dropping and dropping, going like, I wish I knew more about CrowdStrike at the time. It's like it reminds me of a Shopify where they're everywhere, but you just don't know they're everywhere because they're the behind the scenes. And man, that would have been a good purchase right there, huh? If there is ever an event like that again, I will personally be keeping an eye out on it, though. Remember, not financial advice. So that could be fun to just keep an eye on here. And then after CrowdStrike, we sped up a little bit here. We're going to look at we'll look at ANF and FL. I wonder if these guys overlap. If we look at ANF, let's look at the last year, and then I want to add FL, Foot Locker. They're similar. That's a pretty similar chart. I do remember this spike here. This was an earnings crush last year where they just nobody saw it coming. For some reason, they went from 109 to 189, and I remember looking at this like, really, Abercrombie? But there's just been like a slow burn since then of like, yeah, but it's a closed store. Yeah, but it's Abercrombie. Yeah, but I hate walking by the store. It smells like cologne. Right, but I do see some lineup here between Foot Locker and Abercrombie. Some of this is just general market moves, right? They're going to move with the market, but on occasion you can see trends that are really tied together. But we're at an interesting 1 year low, are we? Let's take Foot Locker out for a second here. Yeah, we're at a 1 year low for Abercrombie, which surprises me. Because this wasn't earnings. This was just a collapse with the market, but at a much more severe level than what the market sold off at. So there's nothing here that indicates like something has happened. Could be an interesting one to look into for sure. It says Wall Street's looking for earnings growth, but it's like, okay, but why has the stock done this then for the last 9 months? I don't know. But 1 year low, always a potential for a good value play. When I see that type of move, I like to zoom out a little bit further and say, okay, what's happened over the last 5 years? And it looks like we're really just retracing, trying to find a new level of support here. This is where the TEA guys take over. But yeah, there will probably be a new channel forming here, I would guess. Surprisingly volatile stock for a clothing line, by the way. Usually, like a lot of those companies, like this is what you normally see, and you did for 5 years, but I guess that just is indicative of the market that we've been in. Oh snap, Victoria's Secret. Oh, I've been showing my chart the whole time and not sharing it. I didn't realize Victoria's Secret too. VSCO. Let's look them up. I mean, I like lingerie, not to wear personally, but yeah, I mean, it's a pretty classic. I wonder if it dropped like when that song came out. Who came up with that song? The Victoria's Secret models. I don't know. Again, great due diligence coming out on me here. But if we look at the 5 year, they are down on the 5 year significantly. But I'd say that's pretty significant. We look at the 1 year. The 5 year is down 36%. Wow, the 1 year is down 6%. And they also went through the same route that Abercrombie just showed, actually, the spike. It's like the clothing stores went through their own AI spike. A little odd, but I guess it's a thing. And then what else we have? We have Rigetti. We got RGTI. Rigetti is one of the quantum boys. We can compare them with a few here. Quantum Computing is who I own. And then Oink. Where's... whoops. I hit the wrong button there. Let's add Ionic. INQ. I do want to call them Oink. This is a good example of a sector moving together like day by day. There are on occasion a couple of times where one will spike up and the other will spike down randomly, but overall, pretty wild how well these overlay. And that's just the 1 day. So let's look at the 1 month, and it's the same. It's the same deal, right? The reason I bought Qubit actually was this. They, percentage wise, had much more volatility. I thought we had found a channel here, and then Jensen just literally personally punched me in the face, knocked me out along with many others, and I think I sold cash secured puts here. That was painful, and then we just dropped like a rock. So I bag hold those, but I've lowered the cost basis quite a bit selling CCs. I keep selling them for like $1, which is $100 per contract, right? And 5 of those, $500, I got 500 shares. I've lowered my cost basis by $1,500 now, maybe more, from what was originally 16. So 8,000, but minus 1,500, it'll be another 500 here probably next week. So yeah, my cost basis from 16 is probably at like 12 right now. I'd have to look at my spreadsheet exactly, but anyway, I'm going to continue to sell on that. But I am curious, like, again, talk about another slow burn here. They've been hit pretty hard, and if we look at the 1 month, it's just been who's yellow? D-Wave. Yeah, D-Wave for some reason has been bucking the trend. I was watching them. They're flatter in general, whereas Qubit is way more right. Yeah, Qubit. Yeah, quantum computing Inc. is Qubit. D-Wave is qubits. QBTS. They're just flatter. I don't know what it is. People bet on the technology differently because they all have their own form of quantum, how they're approaching the problem. And we're going to end up with like one company figures it out. But we're probably a long way away from that because, Jensen will tell you 15, 20 years out. Great. But I think there'll be some development sooner than that get people wanting to buy in earlier. And we could see another spike here. It may not be this year, it may not be for 5 years. I don't know. But I do think it'll be long before the 10 to 15, 20 years that Jensen was talking about. And we got MongoDB. Is it MDB? Yeah, MDB. They've been pretty volatile post earnings in the past, so kind of curious what they do. Yeah, this is the one I remember here where they just dropped like a rock. And I remember thinking, like, should I buy them? And then I was reading about them, and it didn't seem bullish. It seemed pretty bearish, so I avoided them. And I'm not regretting that. They are definitely in a channel as well, but they keep hitting this low, this 1 year low, and I have no reason why I would be convinced to do something with them one way or the other. So I'm not even going to look into them too deeply here. Then we got JD.com. So JD was one of the Michael Burry stocks that he bought into, which might tell you they're worth looking at. They're definitely trading in a clear channel year to date, which is a weird time frame. It's 2 months. The 1 month is going to show you that channel incredibly clearly. Wow. You could definitely swing trade this, but it's not a big swing. It's only a few percent, single digit percent here. But I guess if you're swinging big enough dollars, you could definitely make something off of that. And it looks like it likes the trade in channels. So food delivery is under. Okay, so this is good. This is where I would be looking into Yahoo Finance, of course. Google to Yahoo. Razor thin margins for China internet peers, and I'd have to really read into this a bit. So it's trying to get into the food delivery space, and Meituan, there's a much better way to say that than what I just did, is apparently dominating it, right? So they're probably going thin margins to try to get market share, and I would imagine that's what they're going to be talking about. But they're obviously coming in from behind, so they're going to struggle with making any meaningful impact. So yeah, how much are they investing? Yeah, I think it's a good one too. So we know a guy like Michael Burry is investing in it. We know that there's some big things happening here with the company. This is a great one to gather sentiment if the comments worked, which they don't, to see what people are saying about it, or just keep reading the story, I suppose. But I mean, I'm not personally going to do anything here. This is definitely just a data point for Chinese market type stuff that I would be paying attention to. And if we go back to earnings, we'll keep moving along here. We got Cracker Barrel. Oh yeah, I wanted to look up Cracker Barrel. CBRL. CBRL. Have you been to Cracker Barrel recently? Ugh, what are they doing? Man, I don't even need to look at this. It's puts all the way for me. All right, the 5-year trend is awful. The max is like, this is where I liked Cracker Barrel. Come on, man, you guys were crushing it. And then you're just like, we're just going to cut everything to try to make money and just, man, decimated your own stock. AOL.com still exists? Oh, that's 11 months ago. Maybe not. This is what I'm interested in for Cracker Barrel. Look at that. You can see the decline in the net income. They went from 250 to 130 to 99 to 40. Ugh. Can they stop the bleeding is the question. And the fact is, I haven't had any inkling of wanting to go back to one. And I drive by billboards everywhere. Like, I think that's their strategy, is billboards, and obviously selling rocking chairs on the front stoop. But I do not see a world where Cracker Barrel goes up. Maybe they'll surprise us with some, like, they're becoming a Bitcoin treasury for old people, for boomers. But otherwise, I look at these charts and I'm just like, no. I do not believe in Cracker Barrel. That said, I wouldn't touch them with even shorts, because they just don't move that much. I think they're just a depressing story, and people are like, at some point they'll go out of business, right? Then we got Kroger and BJ's. So KR and BJ, nice. KR is a store I go to pretty regularly. They've got a great 1-year trend, up 30% here, despite a lot of the challenges that have been faced. I think they're going to be in the Walmart camp, as people are struggling with uncertainty. What do? You go buy toilet paper, apparently, right? As we found out in COVID. So yeah, they've got wow, look at that trend. I do believe Kroger is a well-run business. I've been to many different Krogers, and very rarely have gone like, oh, this is all wrong. They've got a good cohesiveness to their brand. That's across probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 states that I've been to Kroger's in. This is not real research, but just it gives me the feel that they are a well-run business. But there's some big news here. Merger uncertainty. No, I don't want to do it. Leave me alone. We'll look at this in a very small window. What do we got? Pending merger with Albertsons Companies. I did not know about that. Well, let's look at that, actually. So mergers are interesting because a lot of people, you'll see companies spike when a merger is announced. And that's because there's like an expectation that your stock will be bought out at a certain price, and they're hoping that it's valued above, well, I can't forget about that. They're valued above what the current price is. But that's not how it always goes. It's typical that, a company is going to pay at least the share price, right, for a company they're looking to buy. But let's look at this ACI business overlaid. And that's fascinating. It's like ACI needs Kroger more than Kroger needs ACI. And the question is real simply, will ACI, who will benefit from it? I think right now, I don't know enough to say who's taking over. Is Kroger buying them? Like in a merger, one of the companies disappears. Which is it going to be? We'd have to look into this some more. 2 weeks ago, Kroger cuts hundreds of jobs at Cincinnati HQ. Okay, unfortunately that's bullish, right? As that means that their cost structure should improve, and their financials are not overly impressive. The revenue has improved, but year over year, EBITDA dropped, or what is that? Net income. So, yeah, net income dropped 3.5%. EBITDA actually went up, which is great, of course. So, yeah, hard to say on them as well. They're very much. They've got a real nice trend. The merger is a huge potential catalyst. There might be information shared on the earnings call about the merger, which means it's very, very hard to want to get involved with them in that case. Oh, we were going to look up BJ's. Did I look up BJ's already? BJ's just opened up another store by me. Another solid trend. We're gonna overlay them with Costco just to get a feel. They're experiencing a very similar result, and they okay. So here's where you might think about things. BJ's reports Thursday morning. Costco reports Thursday afternoon. So depending on BJ's guidance, we could have a potential Costco play from that. But that's going to happen very quickly. People are going, the market is going to move almost immediately on both. And you can see that again. They do overlay fairly well. Not always exactly aligned, but I mean, that's pretty close. That spread's pretty tight. And they're both up about 40%, right? So very similar trend here. We're not going to be able to move as quick as the markets move on reacting to that news for Costco, as an example. But it's an interesting one to keep in mind. I think we already looked at Costco earlier, so we don't need to look at them again. We got Gap, another clothing company, is going to be reporting some earnings here. I got nothing on Gap, honestly. I stopped going to Gap 20 years ago. Let's look at the 5-year. That's a depressing chart, actually, for 5 years. They've been in a macro channel from 40 to 10 to 40 to 7, and right now they're kind of in the middle of it. It's like they can't figure out what they're doing here. Looks like a dividend stock, though. I didn't realize that. That's kind of interest to some people. But look at that income swing. They just go back and forth, positive to negative, and their negatives are just as big, if not bigger, than their positives. I don't know. I wouldn't touch Gap. It's not my type of stock. And the last thing we've got is Hewlett Packard Enterprise. So take a quick look at the 1 year here. I don't see. I mean, that's a good trend for sure. 27% for the 1 year, and even better for the 5 year. That's a beautiful slow build. See if there's anything big in the news. Acquisitions. The problem is they're such a large company, 26 billion market cap, that a lot of these acquisitions, unless they're of meaningful size, meaning many billions of dollars, it's not going to move the stock in any way. Now, what is interesting is there's obviously some potential blockage of the acquisition, and that's a month old, so there should be some news there from what from what we see from a month ago. So that could be one to dive into a little bit. They've got a pretty decent income statement outlook. 2020, the COVID years, the start of it wasn't looking so hot. We'd have to look in to see what happened there as catalyst. Then they dropped down in 2022, kind of end of COVID, with a good trend up. If they can continue that for all of 2024, if this is in fact where they end up, I could definitely see some continued growth for HP. Man, if you asked me 20 years ago who would be one of the stocks that led, I wouldn't have guessed Hewlett Packard would have been up there, honestly. Dell would have been one, I'd say. Obviously, Apple. Let's see what Dell does compared to HP. Wow. All right, we'll get off the max. That's not too helpful. But Dell is Dell has dominated. See, I would have guessed Dell. Maybe that's why, because they're just so much bigger in the news, and they've had those big swings. Like every time Michael Dell retires and then comes back, as an example. So, yeah, I mean, Hewlett Packard is more informational for me. Wow, dude, hello, longest name I've ever read on YouTube. Italian with Christopher Carvagliano official. That's a long name, dude. Welcome, dude. Hopefully, unfortunately, you're catching me towards the end here. We're wrapping up on the end of the earnings, but SoFi, is SoFi coming up this week? No. Did I miss that? It wouldn't be the first time. I've most definitely missed big names here before. Where is SoFi on the earnings? Let's see. Actually, they're on my watch list, so we can just go to the watch list, and it should say what's coming up. Are you an after-hour guy? I would assume, anyway. Earnings calendar. I don't see them coming up here. In 2 weeks, okay. Yeah, dude, SoFi actually is interesting. I have followed them. I've owned them in the past. I owned them at 7 and got so bored. They were kind of like Uber for me. They just didn't do anything for a while. This is where I owned them, actually. Look at that. Look at how many months just stagnant. Look at the 5-year. This is, I had them somewhere over here, and I remember looking back, and I think I bought them after, like down here maybe. Sounds about right. Or in this area, actually, would have been when I got them. Because there was a peak, and I was like, oh, value play, right? And then it just did nothing for months and months and months. No, I got to go further back. I bought them back here, and they did nothing for years. So I did eventually get out of them. I do like their business. I think they've got some interest. Oh, I'm not showing the chart. I'm sorry. I do like their business. I bought them back here, is what I was saying, and just for years watching them do nothing was like, ugh. I think I sold them on one of these like $8 days. I bought them at 7. I sold them at 8 after a year. I'm like, ugh. But their business is actually interesting, beyond the school stuff. And I think a lot of this is probably tied to student loan forgiveness type stuff. Although, if I remember right, they were not impacted by student loan forgiveness the way that federal loans were. It has good volatility. I agree with that. But, if you look at, like, sometimes the volatility range is kind of long. Let's look at the 1 year or 6 months, try to get a better view here. Like, the average time of a peak to a valley, if you're looking to swing trade, it can be, let's see, the 16th, that's 1 week, to the 19th. To the 26th, yeah, this honestly, this is great here. We're talking about a week or two in between all of these peaks and valleys. But their option pricing is not that good. I've looked at them a few times, and I'm always like, the premiums, I don't like the premiums. It could be good to swing trade just straight shares, for sure. Like, that could definitely be a play. Yes, exactly. So that was what I liked about the business as well. They're not just doing student loans. They're doing a whole bunch of stuff. And that's like where you got to be thinking about SoFi is I think a lot of people still group them with just a student loan business, but they offer like personal banking stuff now, right? You can buy a lot of stuff through them. And that's something that should be taken into consideration for their long-term benefit. Now, I think maybe some of that's priced in now at this 15 level. Like, I was thinking about that stuff at 7, and I kept like, why is this not doing anything? This should do something, right? Like, why do people not see this? With 100% increase this year, though, in the last 6 months, apparently some people did see it eventually. I just lost patience and never got there. Definitely a good example of why buy and hold can certainly pay off more than trying to swing trade, or maybe you can do a little bit of both, like as we're looking at here. Definitely worth the consideration. Maybe I will take a play after earnings. So is there any news? I gotta see if there's any news. Yeah, it is. I agree with you that price targets never seem to match up very well with the stock. So you always take that with a grain of salt. And there's like a multiplier of uh, pop stocks, right? So just the popularity contest that exists with stocks, which ultimately does lead to volatility and better premiums and option selling and buying, of course. Um, it's been a popular stock for years, and it looks like it's still maintaining that. Although I'm still surprised by the option prices are not that good, and I don't think I'm going to trade. I don't think I'm going to sell cash secured puts on them. I think if I did anything, I would pick a entry point, and maybe it's just this flat 14 range, right? I mean, we're testing 14 very regularly here. 1407, 1392, back here 1407, 1413, 1340. I mean, that's a pretty solid trend for the last month and a half, 2 months. Let's look at the year to date. The year to date is going to make it look like it's been happening forever. Yeah, it definitely it could be a play, man. Most definitely. But earnings, I don't know. Earnings is sticky to do something like that. Heavy institution, yeah, yeah. But yeah, like you said, how do you mix that with the price targets that are sub 10, single digits? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they're using it just as a exposure or hedge. It's hard to say because they could be hedging against other financial institutions with this. It's more of a long shot. Yeah. So I'm curious. You think it's gonna drop and then squeeze? It could drop and squeeze. That we saw that with Archer this past week. That was an interesting one where um, they dropped. They were down. What was it? At one point, I think they were down close to 20%, and then they went up to this rocket ship here. Although, like if I zoom out even a week here, you're gonna be like, oh, well, they're back where they were, right? So nothing exciting, but there was a definite play that could have been made here. I was going to sell. I've sold many options on Archer. This is a great stock to play the channel on. Not financial advice, but it's traded in between in a range of like 7 to 10 for a long time here. So 9, 675, 9. This is where we spike to 11, drop to 9s again, back to 11, back to 8, back to 9, almost 10, back to 9, back to 10, back to 8, 7, back to 6 at one point in the last 5 days. But it's got like a stability to the volatility, and that's the type of stock that I like to look for because it gives you, if you can stomach the swings and put this history out of your mind, it could be a good stock to play with, right? I think it definitely has a lot of interesting potential. You like Archer too? You know what's interesting? That 5 year chart. I very rarely look at the 5 year in Archer because it's just so volatile, and volatile. Get it? It's funny to think that it was here in the 2020s, the early 2020s. I mean, I know we're still in the 2020s, but 2020, 2021, right? And now we're back there. There were definitely some people who were hyping it up here, and I was hesitant. I think I bought it at 5 for the first time, or maybe it was this $4 range. It was right in this area, and then I sold it at 7. But it's been a great stock, man. And generally, I'm interested in the concept. It's one of those that like, this could be something. Now, the problem I have with Archer is, I've worked in aerospace for many years, 7 years. I did design work on aircraft 20 years ago. I am very hesitant when it comes to FAA certification. But anyone you ask in the echo chamber of Reddit, Wall Street Bets, or anyone that's a fanboy of it, they will say, no, they already got it. The FAA wants to. Trust me, bro, trust me. And that's actually what gives me the most hesitation is I'm like, I hear you, but I've also worked with the FAA, and, it is not it's not a fast moving bureaucracy. Um, Now that may change with what's going on with Doge and all that. Not to get political, but there's some uncertainty into it, which is why it has for sure why it has the volatility that it does. So again, another one of those we'll see, but I will continue to partake in Archer here and there. I do wish I got it at that $6 drop that we just saw here. Um, it was the one morning that I had something I had to do in the morning, and I'm like, it'll be fine. It's 20% after hour drop. I'll get it. I wanted to sell cash secured puts at $6, and I was like 20K worth or something. That would have probably paid off. That would have paid off already. These things would have already been worth like 5 cents. So. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. So back to SoFi though, like I am interested in that. We'll definitely talk about that the week prior to their earnings when that comes up. And I think that's all the major ones I was going to talk about here. This is a very good week of earnings. I'm going to put a post up here as well on After Hour on some just thoughts typed out from what we talked about here and what my guesses are essentially, because that's most definitely what they are in a lot of cases for earnings. I mean, earnings are so guidance heavy these days, and you miss a single metric, and gosh, it's just like, forget it. You're sorry. No, you're good, man. You're good. I could be, yeah. Your TA guys would be jumping all over this with the cup and handle for sure. No, this was good. I enjoyed talking about it, so I think I'll do this. I'll probably make this just a weekly thing on Saturday mornings instead of the old Saturday morning cartoons. We're going to talk about Saturday morning earnings for the next week. Sorry, I called it fat resurgence. I didn't mean it, man. I just read it too quick. Yeah. I'll look you up, give you a follow as well. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully, I'm curious. I want to start hearing a little bit about people's like success, and I don't want to say failures. I'm sure there's some though in After Hour too. People get burned here and there, but I'm curious, like on average, how are people doing listening to and reading After Hour plays, just as opposed to like Wall Street Bets, which exists and has existed for a while. But hopefully on average, people are doing well. Cool, man. Well, we'll definitely be back for next week with another earnings. We'll do live streams for earnings. I think it's the right way to do it. This way. We didn't have a ton of chatters today. I think 4 or 5 people jumped in, which is cool. First video, I'm happy it's not 0. But we'll keep doing this and get other people's thoughts. I'd love to get people's takes on what they're excited about. I didn't talk about half of these. I think there's probably somebody out there that's like, dude, I can't believe you didn't talk about Plug. I don't know what Plug is. All I know is the logo looks like a face. That's kind of cool, I guess. I'm super bullish. But, like for me, different stocks are going to stand out than the next guy, obviously. And the next girl was, we got a good mix of genders on After Hour. Not that it matters, but it's kind of cool to see. But yeah, I think, I look at some of these and I'm curious what other people are thinking about Nordstrom. That's a weird business that's in the JCPenney era of like they still have a brick and mortar shop and apparently make some amount of money. Are they going to go out of business? I don't know. Yeah, Rigetti. Dude, Rigetti terrifies me, by the way, because I have Qubit. So I think whatever happens to Rigetti is going to impact Qubit, positive or negative. I'm trying to sell some covered calls on them this week, but they just keep dropping like a rock. I got to keep lowering that cost basis with some covered calls, hopefully. So, American stocks and consumer staples will perform. I hope so. I think you're right. Like in terms of uncertainty, times of uncertainty, which we're in, obviously. And we talked about this early in the stream, but like the whole Ukrainian president meeting with Zelensky and I'm probably saying his name wrong, and Trump was not good. So now we've got that uncertainty on top of things. And when that happens, Costco, Walmart, I'm wondering about Target. I think Target's got a shot at doing well, but I will go back to that chart real quick, just to rehash of, man, they've had some serious drops post earnings though, and this one here, I'm worried there'll be another. So I'm going to wait until after earnings. But should that drop happen again here, I'll probably be in. They're one of those companies that will or historically do recover from a big drop, and I want to be there for it in the right way. Look at that drop, man. Oof. Yeah, Target is funny because like it represents as or projects as such a good company, but then you look at the stock, you're like, wow, I just wouldn't have expected that from Target. It was a disaster. Yeah. So awesome. Well, hey, thanks for joining, man, and everybody else who joined. Anyone else who might still be watching, I love the fact that you stopped by. Hopefully, you enjoyed some entertainment. Again, not financial advice. Oh, I got to put on my other screen that it says not financial advice. But I wish everybody the best in their money making endeavors. I'll have a new video out probably tomorrow on the channel about return on investment for premium selling options, and just how do you figure out like what is your actual return when doing that versus just buying and holding, because that is most definitely a totally cool and appropriate strategy for maybe most people. But I'll just kind of show how I do that and come up with different things. Hey Sean, thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate having you here as well. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next stream. And now I got to figure out how to turn off the stream. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.